Day trading today, I've had a green day. I cut off my losers. I made the trades I should have made, but I'm still not happy with my overall performance. I'm not happy with the way that I traded. Talking about it right here in this video, showing you the trade, showing you what went down and all that fun stuff. Let's go. The old saying that any green day is a good day is obviously a good saying. But when you get to a point that you know what you need to do, you wake up in the morning, you have a trade, you have a plan, you do everything that you need to do every day, in and out. Some days when you have a green day, you're still just not happy with the overall way that the things went. So today was one of those days for me. You know, I've been trading now since 2016, like I said, and I know exactly what I need to do, and I know exactly how I need to do it and all of that. But today was kind of a tricky day for me, and I had some what I felt like good trades, but I just didn't execute it, and I just didn't follow through like I should have, and I broke some rules, and you know, it's just one of those days. And looking back at it, you know, obviously in hindsight, you could always say, you know, I could have done this, should have done this, and you know, maybe if the stocks would have went higher, I would have made this video different. But let's talk about kind of what went down. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You want to learn more about day trading, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and also don't forget to leave a like. Also, leave a comment down below. What stocks are you guys trading today? What are you looking at this week? What's the hot stock? And I know AMC is the hot stock this week for most people, but I'm interested to find out what everyone else is looking at. So looking here at the SPY, you can see this morning it had a huge gap up. It had the gap in the chart there. It pushed up to 461. The thing about this, I've talked about this so many times in videos, right? That these gaps love to get filled. They're like magnets, like price magnets. Doesn't mean that the price is going to go like right to that level. But normally, like when we have these big gaps up, and especially when the market just rallies right at open, we do get a pullback. Right out of the gates I was already bearish. I was already looking for a bearish trade. The problem here is I just was kind of like, okay, I'm going to wait. And then all of a sudden, it just ended up smacking back down, and you had this huge move down. You can see I bought these 460 puts right there. I bought them. I bought 3, sold 3, walked away with $236 in profit there. And if we go and we look at those puts, I'll show you exactly how that went. You had a push from the $1.75 area up to a high of almost $4. So I ended up jumping in there at $2.19 and rode them all the way up to above $3 there, and locked down at $236 in profit, which, you know, is a great trade. Again, you know, going back and looking at the chart, I knew that there was a very good chance that this really was going to pull back here and, you know, get down into this level, which is kind of looking like it might do by the end of the day. But in general, I knew that we had the gap. I knew that we were kind of overextended. Everything was overextended. There was a good reason to be selling off. The VIX started to spike as well. So there was a lot of things that were lining up for this to pull back. The problem here is I just did not have the faith, I guess, or the confidence in the trade, even though, like I said, you know, I've seen this trade a million times. I know exactly kind of how these gaps interact in the chart, and it's just one of those things. I ended up getting out early. The contract went all the way up to almost a high of $4. So there was a lot of profit that I left on the table. I was buying at 218, 219, 220. Sold the first one at 280, sold the second one at 295, and then sold the third one at 318 there. And obviously, you know, it ran all the way up to almost $4. I think there was some more room, and I needed to have a little bit more patience there and letting that trade kind of work out. And not that that was a terrible trade by any means, but like I said, you know, I should have gave more confidence, at least kind of take profit on one of those contracts and then hold 2 contracts to really capitalize off that move. You can see now, again, bouncing back from the, I think, like $1.80 area up here to $3.50. So some good moves still on these contracts today. You know, one thing that I want to say really quickly here is that obviously it's always, you know, in hindsight, it's easy to look at the chart and be like, oh, I could have done this, could have done that. But the one thing is, as traders, we really need to focus on making sure that when we identify a setup, when we see something that looks so tasty and so good, like this morning with that big gap up, knowing that, the gaps are just magnets, knowing that looking at that bearish pressure, I really should have capitalized. And that's a lesson to be learned for every trader out there. When you see a setup, when you see something that looks like a textbook, just like this thing, you've seen it happen before. Like, how many times have I seen the market gap up huge and then sell off, fill the gap, and then rally back? I've seen that happen so many times. So today was literally just like wake up and be like, hey, look, I've seen this pattern before. I know this pattern. Now it's time to capitalize. Now it's time to make some money. And that's exactly, should have been my mindset, but instead, just kind of, I don't feel like I want to say pussyfooted, but kind of pussyfooted around the trade and didn't capitalize off a setup that really should have just been cut and dry, easy, in, out, and taking profit. Hey, if you guys want to learn more about the broker that you see behind me right here, Interactive Brokers, you can learn more. This is the desktop workstation. They've got a great app as well. I'll put a link down below. You can check out the free scanner at Interactive Brokers. Link down below. Let's get back into the action. AMC this morning, right out of the gates, goes from $28 to a high of $34. So I ended up buying the $30 call options. If you look here, you can see the $30 call options that I ended up buying. I ended up walking away with a $45 loss. And the problem with this was I ended up buying those call options, the $30 call options on AMC. Ended up buying these $30 call options at open, right at open at the $3 level. And look at this thing go. It ran all the way up to almost $8 there. So almost like a 100% move there on those call options. I ended up selling those call options at $5.65. So it pushed up here. I ended up selling $5.65 and then it crashed back down. The stock got halted, and then I ended up getting out for a small loss. So it's pretty kind of frustrating because I was up like almost $200, $300 on that trade, and I should have gotten out. I should have gotten out, taken to full profit instead of kind of like, okay, I'm going to let this one really ride. But again, like I said earlier in this video, it's always the ifs, the whats. If AMC would have went to $40, well, then I'd be making this video saying like, wow, look, I made $1,000 in profit, and I'm rich. But again, I think I could have executed that trade much better, and I could have, probably locked in that profit a little bit better and let this one, I don't know. It's always hindsight here at the end of the day, but just kind of focusing on, what I need to be doing differently. And again, this really comes down to just execution. I need to really focus on my execution here, and I just need to focus on letting the trades work out and do what they need to do to get the profit, to hit the targets. And if I identify certain areas on the chart and I'm like, hey, this is where I think this is going to go. If I think a stock's going to go to a certain price and, I have a plan, I have a trade, well, then let it do it. Let it do its thing, right? The other options that I ended up kind of just messing around with today were the 457 puts. So the 457 puts, I was buying and selling. So I bought them here, $1.73, sold one at $1.84. I bought again at $1.58. I bought again at $1.59. I sold one at $1.82, and then I sold one at $1.37. Well, actually, buying one at $1.37 and then having to get out, selling all of them at $1.15. So, again, kind of tricky, choppy action. Could I have done things differently? Obviously, always can do things differently. But I think at the end of the day here, the big focus for me right now is when I identify a setup. Like I said, when I identified, obviously, we had that big gap in the chart. We have all that going on. I really need to hammer it, and I really need to focus. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, the first thing that I noticed right out of the gates was we had the gap in the chart. We had that overall focus there. We had everything going on. I really should have hammered that trade. And then, obviously it's always in hindsight. Still today up $143 on the day, so I can't complain. But obviously, I wish that it would have been a $300, $400, $500 day. And I think that's just going to come with time, focus, and just remembering, that, hey, Patrick, you look at this chart and you see the setup, you see what's going on. Let the trade work out. Let it do its thing, capitalize off the trade. When you see a setup like this, when you see what is going on, capitalize, really capitalize on these opportunities. And then you have to sit back and you have to watch and wait for the next opportunity. So that's kind of what I've been focused on. That's what I need to focus on. And as you can see right now, they SPY at 458. Not the best day ever. We're still green, but there's obviously a lot of things that I could have done differently. And it's always, in hindsight here. I felt like I was in the right place to make the money, to make the trades. just didn't have the perfect execution. And well, that's what we're working on. That's what we're going to get better at in time. So if you guys haven't already, do me one big favor, hit that like button, subscribe button, all the buttons down below. I'll talk to you guys later on.